what I have found out about them. I've been making quite a few of them and found out I could turn them over pretty quick, but it's a learning process, but at the same time, this was part of a tree that was cut down 6 weeks ago over in Indiana and Valpo. This is what we're going to go over tonight, and how to process this and how to center it up, how to turn the wings on it. This one, you'll notice, came out of a pretty big log. The opposite sides are pretty equal on here, and we'll get it all around with that. Nice piece of walnut. I cored one out of here, so I have two of those bowls, one a little smaller than that one on that part. I have some examples here of what we're looking for and what happens. This is actually a whole log, and just threw the log up and was spinning like an airplane propeller. And then turned the outside first, and then flipped it over, put it on a tenon, and turned the inside, turned it thin enough that it would dry, and I just set this aside. The pith is in that log, and there's actually two piths. It's part of right below a limb on that one. This piece here, you can zoom in a little on it. As you can see, the circles, what you're trying to do is present the rings in the center of the bowl. And this one's a little bit off. And so the pith on this bowl is actually down here. And to try to turn that bottom part, and you try to get that. If you have a log that is not pristine, we're going to talk about those too. It may have this off center, but you got to decide whether you want the wings, the bark to be level and equal, or do you want the circle, the grain, down in the bottom in the center of the bowl. And most of the time, if it's a limb, that will not happen for you. This one here shows a difference in them. This one is right in the middle, and the bark is equal on both sides. So how did that happen? You have to find a log that has the pith in the center of it. Makes it easier. You can get it done, but you're going to lose a lot of bowl trying to center all this stuff up together. So it's better to find a nice round piece of wood. And this one here is a piece of pear, and you can see the pith is going to run right down the center of where that center mark is. And this line here, you can see that it's in the bark on both sides, very close to it, right on the edge of the bark on that one. So that's good. This is good. This is going to be the right kind of wood to use for that, for a natural edge bowl. You can do it. This one here is a bottom of a limb. So the limb is sitting like this, and the bark on this side is not near or far away from the pith. The pith is not centered. It may be 2.5 inches here, and on this side it's probably close to 4.5 inches. So the way it sits in the tree is going to be the strongest part is underneath the limb. That's holding the limb up in the air. And that's why these are more radical. They don't dry as nicely either, any wood you're trying to use. Most of the time, if you have a limb and you want to make a bowl out of it, you're going to cut about an inch, inch and a half off of where the pith is to try to get equal all the way across it. So this one here, you can see, if we look at this, there's the center. I centered this up on the pith. The pith is right there, all right? And the yellow line running right down it is right close to where the live center went. And you can see that the sapwood there and the sapwood over here are pretty close to that yellow circle. but yet when you look at it, look at the bark that's still on this side of the bowl, and look at the bark that's left on this side of the bowl. So that's telling me that I'm going to have one edge much lower than the other when I turn this bowl. It's going to be cocked like that, and one's going to be lower and one's going to be higher. Because the sapwood is disappearing much quicker over here than it is on this side. In order to get up here, I got to turn this way up here to get through the bark on that side. So again,
was that a trunk or a limb?
this is a limb. Yeah, and the limb sat like that. Well, this would be the bottom of the limb here. The top of the limb was not near as big. This was cut over in Valpo 5 weeks ago too on that one. But the best you can do with it is center, cut it shorter and try to find a point that you can get these more equal. But if you try to do this, it's not going to work. If you have a limb, go for making the bark on both sides equally high. And these will take pretty much care of themselves, unless you really tilt the whole thing cockeyed this way. We'll talk a little bit about that too. So that's one of the problems that you have there. This one here, I turned Saturday I turned this one. I got on the lathe, I just kind of went very quickly with it and cutting it, and if you look, this is pretty wide. This is almost 7/16 of an inch in here, but then you look at the edge and you can see through this. It's really thin over here, and it's not much thicker over here. So the bark was out of whack here, but my circle, my grain is a little bit off on that, but the next one is even closer, the next one is even closer. So if there's something was going on here, it just pushed it off a little bit on that part of it. But it showed up more up here. And we're going to talk about cutting the wings. And one of the things that the challenge you have is to get this thickness wall over here the same. So you have to be consistent with that cut. It doesn't get thinner and thinner and thinner as you head down to this level. As you up here, it looked really good.
So how you prevent that, Bob?
Well, we're going to talk about cutting. You can't just prevent it. You have to watch what's going on as you're cutting it. Where are you going with your tool? But to have it this way, this bowl to me was basically rejected because there's not enough material here to really sand this out. It was cut relatively clean. This is right off the tool. We're going to talk about the 40/40 grind, and we'll talk about bottom feeders and things like that to make those cuts on the bowl. That one's a little crooked there. Okay, tools. Set the two of these down first. This is the best grind for cutting wings, or one of the best grinds, I should say. This is a 40/40, made very popular by Stuart Bailey. And we've got 40 degrees here, and there's 40 degrees on both these wings. And this will cut very cleanly going down under the wing. And that's one of the tools we can use. This is another one by a guy who, well, a lot of people. This is the 40 grind on the nose, but the wings are really ground back considerably. And does it make it a better tool? Not really. All these things up there are just options. It's nice to be able to take off a lot of wood when you're trying to waste off the wood off the bottom with a big shear cutting or scraping cutout with the tool over. They do a little bit of that, and then being able to go right down. And this tool is probably a little more narrow coming through here compared to this one. It widens out more quickly than the other one.
What size? Those are 3/4?
Pardon me?
Size, thickness, 3/4?
These are 5/8.
5/8.
5/8. Both these gouges are Ellsworth, who never uses a 40-40 grind. They are elliptical, same as D-way. This is a D-way here. This is about a 60-degree grind on the front of this. This is one way to cut the bottom and get a pretty good cut on that. If you're a little more, as Mike is learning, back over here. This is a bottom feeder with the wings. And you see it's ground straight across. Very easy to grind. You put it on the tool rest and you rotate it back and forth.
Is that like 80 degrees? What is that?
I'm sorry?
Is that 80 degrees?
This one? This one's more like probably 70. Yeah, it's really steeper than any of the other ones. You know, degrees, bevels and things, what feels comfortable for you? Some guys would rather have 60. Depends where you have your tool rest, depends where your handle is, depends how tall you are. A number of different parameters can go into that. So find what works for you and grind it that way. And make it work that way. Okay, those are your basic tools. But we're going to look at what is there. If you haven't turned many natural edge bowls, Sherry was working Saturday, and I gave her a parting tool to cut into the bark and cut that bark cleanly to start with, and then she could use her gouge. Some people have a little problem getting that gouge to stay put when you're pushing into the high part of the bark. When you flipped it around, the bowl's this way. Now it's spinning, and you're trying to cut with a gouge. This one lets you get in there. Some guys will do that with coring too. They use that to start their cores out of that. There's nothing wrong with using a scraper in the bottom of a bowl. Just don't try to use it on the wings. If you try to cut the wings with a scraper, you're going to take the wing off. It's moving. It's very flexible. The thinner it gets, the more wobble is moving on you. If you put too much pressure with the bevel, or you put too much pressure with the scraper, the same effect is going to happen. You're going to push that out, and then as the next one comes around, it's not going to be pushed out as far. You're going to get a catch there and blow it up. So it's all about delicate touch and following. We're going to use a piece of pear, the one that's centered up. This one, I know what's going to happen. This is a starter block right here. This is nothing but a face plate with a bolt here and in it. Drilled it out, put a 5/16, 3/8, whatever this is, and then put a nut on each side. So I can actually adjust this bolt in and out a little bit if I want to. Right now they're pretty equal. And if you take your blank, you can drill these holes if you know the distance between these 2 points. You can drill a hole there and a hole there in the line with it and do it that way, or you can chip the bark out, take the bark out of here and get a flat enough where you can get these in. What you need to do is get these to penetrate far enough that it won't spin as you're trying to turn it. So those two there, that will go toward the headstock, and I'm just going to use those 2 holes that are on there. And then this side, bring up our tailstock. On there, and that looked easy now because I had it all lined up. But what I did was measure from the log, when I had the log basically in its half form, I measured the length and the width of it. And I could see where the pith was on this one. And so when I measured those, I put a cross in the center. That's pretty much how I line that side up. Then when I line this side up, I'm looking to see if the bark on the top and the bark on the top of this one are in plane with each other. If they are not in plane with each other, I really don't care if this is a little offset. and I'll turn that off. I can turn this off. I cannot turn this one down. This is the top two points, and they have to be pretty much in line, like that. You wouldn't want to do this on a screwed-on faceplate because you're taking, the first time and that's it. You're taking whatever comes off of it. But now, if it weren't right I wanted it, I could adjust it back here. I could also adjust it in the front and try to get things balanced better. But I've turned this one around just to save some time with it on that. All right, anything else there? We're going to set this.
One of those,
What do you have?
one of those 3 or 4 pins, would that hold it better?
I do not use 4 pins. I like 2 because I can put them in the 2 highest spots on the bark. Thank you. This is Bill Atchison's tool rest. We advertise on YouTube, and just send us a comment. We can get you in contact with Bill. This thing is super steady, super tough. Never break that one. We'll have to cut this part here. Like that. I'm using a 6-inch tool rest, or 8-inch, whatever this thing is. Just a little more convenient for me and belly muscle in the way on that. But that's pretty much how we set it up. Okay, we're using 2 because we can get the top. And you could go 90 degrees, but it's not going to bite as well. I'm biting into the top, and I can push them through the wood. Or you could drill 2 holes if you measure that 3 inches there, 2 3/4, whatever it is. Right now I have my faceplate. This is a faceplate. I have it in the chuck. Most chucks will accept the faceplates just by clamping them into the chuck. So it's kind of convenient that way. You can screw it on that way.
Why would you do that again? Why would you put faceplates in?
Just save time. I have the chuck. I have the faceplate in the chuck.
Right.
I could just screw the faceplate onto the threads too. Either way. It just, if you're doing a number or you want to just get this out of the way, or your chuck's already on, it's just easier. Just easier for us. Okay. We're gonna. We got the other one out anyway. Right? Now turn at a speed that you feel comfortable. It says I'm doing 115. 115. I don't think that's 115. Time to fix the tip of the operator again. There we go. That's about 950. 800 feels safer for everybody. Now, we'll put this over here a little more. And I could use, let me use it, 'cause I want to take off a lot of wood. I'm going to hide in here a little bit. That's the only problem with it. I'm going to put the bevel on the wood. I can rotate it over a little bit, and I really want to use the wing on this 40/40 grind. And I'm going to take it toward the headstock and pull it toward me a little bit. Move it up, heel cut it, and pull it toward me again. Put it in, put it there. Now you'll notice this is all coming off in curls. If I turn it over and scrape it, I'm getting some curls for a while, but they're not going to last too long, and they're already starting to shred. But you can make some really nice cuts here. Just don't try to take too much wood. When I feel it's getting underneath the wood too much, I pull it toward me. I can cut, and then I pull it toward me. So whenever you start getting in any trouble with too much wood on it, pull it toward you. Now, if you have a one-way live center or a robust live center, you can actually take your pencil, lay it on there and mark it. Go a little bit bigger than what it is, depending on who made it. That one looks a little bit small. I'm going to roll over the batty grind to 40/40 and get a clean cut. I have a dovetail on this chuck, so I just took a little bit of the wood out. It's a little bit of a bevel here, so it's going to grip in there a little bit better. Now I can come back. I have to get the center small enough to go into my chuck without bumping on the face of the jaws, like that. All right, so we got that way, but I want to shape this bowl 2/3 of it. I'm going to shape this 2/3 of the way up, somewhere up into here. And then, in order to hold the bark on this bowl, I'm going to cut back from the top to the bottom. That way I'm pushing the bark toward the wood rather than pulling the bark off of the wood. Does that make sense to you? Okay? So when I get up here somewhere, this is really not too much of a problem. It'll handle that pretty well. As soon as I get this side turned, I'm going to super glue it with thin super glue. If you're using Titebond, it's really thin and it sets really fast. It's great for this, but do not use it on a pen. You'll never get the brass tube into it. But Titebond works very well on sealing up and gluing on your bark on wet wood. The stick fast is slower, it takes a little longer, and it doesn't absorb into the bark as quite as well. But now I'm going to do the same thing. I just want to get rid of this wood up to that point before I start making any curves. I'm pulling with my left hand. Here's the scrape. Here it's kind of mushing. It's kind of mushing the wood. If I go up toward the point, it will cut it much cleaner. Just not taking off quite as much wood. Bringing it around. My handle is at my hip, or actually at my waist. I'm getting too far away from it. The tool rest. Move it in. Just like that. Now I need to come up some more. Now I just moved over my left foot. The reason I moved over my left foot is I wanted to take more wood out of that area. And you can see we're starting to shape the bottom area right there. All right, I look at it, I'm right up to that point. I'm really good on the balance of the bark. So I'm going to come up and turn it the other way just to make sure I keep all my bark. I'm going to raise this to a little bit. If we look at it, I want to be able to get it center, and I'm a little bit high there. This is the way you can do it. In there, maybe a little bit more. Just center it like that. I like to cut that center line. That way I don't have too much bevel bouncing around on me. I'm going to raise the light up here to get a little better look on the back side. Now I'm going to come over here. This is one of the problems with the Powermatic, is it's got a big headstock on it. I'm going to turn this tool over to cut through this bark. I don't want to expose too much of the blade and try to cut the bark with it. I want the minimum amount of resistance, and that's right up here on the point with it over at 3 o'clock. And that's what I want to cut through this with. I want to cut it fairly light. I'm going to look at it, and I can see it's only about a 1/4 inch from the tool rest. I hear it ticking. I got my bevel rubbing. I back up a little bit. I found the edge. And I cut through it. Now all I really have to do here, backed up, found the edge, and cut through it. Now I don't care about the rest of this wood. So I can drop the handle and just kind of take it out of there. Take it off that way. But what I just did was cut this area up here very cleanly. And you can see the wood itself is cut clean, pretty clean all the way across it. Because I'm going this way and I'm not going toward the tenon. I'm not going to try to rip this wood off. I'm just, you can see here, you know, what eventually would happen is you start going down on it. But that would get me in that position that I have there. Now I've been doing a pull cut, and I want to show you there. You can see the tear out right in here on that. And that's from pulling the tool this way with the handle fairly high. And it's just taking off the wood as fast as it could go on that. So we need to bring this up some more. Now I'm going to move toward the point a little bit more, and that will help me make a little better cut. I'm doing a little shear cutting right here. And remember, if I roll it over, drop the handle down, I can get a pretty smooth cut. Now, if you can't see it, I'll try to catch some of this. They got, you know, some light shavings and floaters there. But that's pretty smooth up to this point. Now I'm going to swing Tom a little bit that way. I'm going to come over here and we can do a push cut on this, which is, again, with the 40-40 grind, it really works very well. But this is so smooth right now, I don't have to do this. It's pretty clean. The pear is cutting well. But we're just going to demonstrate again. When you make this cut the other way, if I roll the tool up, it's going to take more wood off it, and it's going to have more rough surface. If I roll the tool back at the 9 o'clock, it's going to cut with the point and make it the smoothest cut. So it's a matter of more wood versus smoother cut. The other thing is speed of the lathe and speed of your movement. The faster I move, the more force is needed to go through that wood. So I'm pushing harder, trying to keep up my body movement. The more time I take, and the smoother the cut's going to be, and the less pressure on the wood itself. So if we go to the first time, we're going to get this here, and I'm just going to push. And you can hear the whole lathe wanting to rattle some there. Darn pear cuts too well. It's pretty smooth still. That's what can happen here. You can have a bit worse there. Okay, so if we roll it over, let's compare the two maybe. Notice the speed here. I'm still resting on my right leg. Come out of the cut a little bit there because the angle is different. Let's pick it back up. I backed up. I'm letting the tool dictate the speed of the cut. And this tool is getting a little bit dull right now, but again, that's pretty smooth. It's actually smoother here than it is down here. And you can see a little, what I call bruising or improper cut there compared to up here. This is pretty clean all the way around, whereas this one I was shear cutting and got a little bit of the blade probably in the wrong spot at the wrong time. It causes a little flat right there on that one. But It's nothing major. Now, here, I've cut pretty deep, so I'm going to go back and cut some more off of that. So I get down there. I go work my way back. Now I can come over this way, roll it over. Where's that other gouge with the black handle? And that? Bugs are tonight. This one's a little sharper. And since I'm not taking very much off, I can go right up toward the top there now. I don't want to go through that bark with too much resistance. Alright, like that. That's a little fat through here. It can be. Now this is a long edge on this tool. And it's still sharp. This is a personal preference. You can make the bowl the shape you want, depending on what you're going to do with it. So I'm just going to bring it up some more. Drop the handle. Weight from right leg to right leg. Move the tool rest. You cannot go too far away from the tool rest. We're going to actually go up into the bark with this one. Really dropping the handle down now. And that's started cleaning up to flip it around, and we'll start doing the inside. Any other questions on the outside? Are there any questions on the outside? I shouldn't say other questions. Oh, I got one. Yeah. Excuse my English. Nothing? Everybody understand what we just did? So you have to do it, huh? Okay, now this will come out very easily. Pass that around.
Bob, for you saying tight bond, actually the thin is better for the bark and
For doing this, Tight Bond is the best super glue. Thin, not anything else, but thin. I'm going to use it right now. This is the product. Tight Bond thin, you can see it's really pretty watery. So all I'm doing is hitting the candium layer and the bark. Everybody know where the candium layer is? Yeah, I'll give you one more problem with Tight Bond. If it gets on my hand's going to be glued to this bowl. It sets that fast. You got to really be careful.
There's a wholesaler in Crown Point.
You want a
You
rubber
can
glove?
buy it, super glue in bulk if you want. You can go in and have bottles filled.
Yeah, I have to put mine in a freezer. Most super glue, if you get 6 months out of, what happens is the thin becomes medium, the medium becomes thick, and the thick becomes a paste. just,
You want a rubber glove?
yeah, unless you use a lot of it, like pen turners for finishes, things like that. This is a little easier to apply it, but it gets on the lathe. But you can just drip it, get it on the bark. When you start up at the top, you can work this way with it and let it run down the bark. And when you come back this way, you can run down the bark on this side.
So this procedure here is a must. You have to.
I'm putting it on here to make sure I don't lose the bark when I cut the inside. Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Jess.
Huh?
Thank you. That's why. And I want to come up on the bark a little bit. I want to make sure I get the tips of that bark all up in here. You'll notice that walnut bowl, the rim is painted black. The reason it's painted is that the super glue will shine kind of like glossy clear poly on your bark up on the edge. So paint it brown, paint it black, something like that. But,
Right at that paper.
yeah. When you get done with this stuff, cap it. You'll knock it down, especially the thicker stuff. Get it out of the nozzle. Otherwise, they clog up and seal up on you. And I never even put the top on mine. I just set them up somewhere, and it'll go that way. I didn't bring any accelerator, but it's dry. Don't need it. It's already dry. That's what I said. Type on. Not good if you're a pen turner, but for this kind of stuff, it works well. Okay, so now you're ready to turn the other side, and what I was talking about with Sherry, and the difference is you can see with this, I can put it at center line and cut through the bark pretty well. And I would do that as I come out here, I can get that cut pretty good. But if you're using a gouge, you want a 40-40, and you want to make sure that's at center line. And you want to put the handle out that you're cutting with the point. I want to cut through the bark with the point. I get a bevel I can rub on. I don't have problems with that. So you can see where we made that cut. It's much easier for me now to cut in there with that gouge. It's not going to skip on me. I can cut that out just by using that parting tool a little bit. And the handle well over the lathe. Point, handle up, parallel to the lathe. Now that's a scrape cut right there. Here comes the cut. Rotate it. It's up to about 2 o'clock. Now you can really see it cut. I can take some out of the center by just turning it over this way. Now I know why Stuart Batty put a piece of wood underneath one of the legs. You can feel it. And now the bark, that part of the bark is pretty well gone. Now I have quite a bit here, and that's what I want. I'm going to work my way back and cut down till I get the thickness I want on the bowl. So again, because I've opened up the inside of it, I can now keep that handle, cut into it. I'm doing a lot of scraping with the lower side of the wing, but I don't want to turn that up too quick and have it catch on the other side here and rip right through the bark either. I want to get down to a lower level on that, the bark. So I want to cut it cleanly, and I want to cut it with the point. I need to move a little wood out of here to make some more room. Notice my hand is on the tool rest and it's blocking where it doesn't skip and take off on me. I'm pushing toward the headstock.
Oh,
Pushing toward the headstock. We lost the bark too, didn't we? Oh, that'll give us another opportunity. We did lose the tenon. I think the tenon,
Too small.
well, it's open. But, okay, what happened? We lost the bowl, but if you look on here, it's got a little bit of an opening there, and maybe it goes this way. There we go. That one fits well. This one will fit well. So what are we going to do?
Super glue.
We're going to super glue it back on. And Sherry brought one in last week and literally had, you could see through underneath the bark. So I broke it in two pieces just like this, took it off, carved underneath it a little bit on the ends to make it conform to the edge again, and super glued it back on. And still there, right? Whew. Good. So, again, you could use a medium super glue here. You might have a little better contact with the glue, but we don't have the medium available that quick. So, again, somebody want to get that accelerator? We could speed that part up.
Do we have any up here?
There was some up in there. Remember what I said about setting fast? That's already taken hold. Be careful of your fingers.
Yeah, I don't see him.
Well, it's a little can of some kind up there. It's there. Ah. Voila. Now try not to
Tighten it up a little bit. Pull that back out.
but as you can see, the crack is almost invisible now. And it's when it goes flying, then you have to take cadaver bark. I've actually had oak bark on cherry, cherry bark on oak, whatever works, whatever you have and whatever fits. We might be a little out of round again, but we'll see. This never happens at home. That's pretty good. Pretty good. Did you find an accelerator, Bob?
Yes, sir. I got medium if you want to use it.
No, I just want the accelerator to make sure the stuff is dry inside. Thank you. All right, we'll try again here. Get your tool rest. One thing, turn your tool rest. When you start going down inside here, there's nothing wrong with putting that tool rest in a position that you can cut. Well, it's got more wobble on the inside than I do on the outside. And we'll move over.
How come that wobbles so much?
when you turn the wings, minimum of a ½ inch, and 3/8 is better. 5/16 is ideal, because when you sand it, you're going to take off a 32nd of an inch maybe, depending on how clean you cut it. The first ones you probably take off a good 1/16 of an inch on it. I need to move a little more wood out of this area. Yeah. This is the batty grind, and I have it about 230, so it's slicing down the lower side here. If I really wanted a smooth cut, I roll it over to 3 o'clock, and hear the difference. But notice it also is going deeper and deeper. That's that long bevel. And I want to go down into wood farther. Okay, we're going to go a little bit thinner than this. The outside of the bowl is probably the easiest, of course. Inside, I'm going to have to use an overhead grip to get that. My palm of my hand is sitting on the top of this tool rest to steady it. And I can move in. Drop the handle and get rid of the waste wood. Check it each time. Now I'm looking at this. I want to see how much I have there and how much I have there. And we're looking pretty good. So I don't want to go straight ahead, or I'm going to take too much out of the side of that. I'm going to cut it too thin. But I just want to start that curve starting to come with it. Unless you want to go thinner. I'm sorry, Tom.
Oh, it's fine. It's fine, a mess.
Okay, we're close. Now we'll take a little more out. So what I'm going to do is take it out from about here. I don't want to go up higher because I'll end up undercutting here. So I just want to get this a little bit thinner through here. So I'm looking at that bark right there, straight on at it. I have the tool with the bevel at 3 o'clock, or the flute, and I'm feeling that right in there. I'm right about where that lower bark is, and I just cut through it. Now I have to turn the corner a little bit, make sure I don't go too much of it. And that's pretty close. I'm a little bit fat yet. I should be sharpening this tool to make these cuts right here. Right at you. That's pretty good. We'll leave it there. Alright, now I can take the rest of this wood out. I don't want to take the center out until I make sure I have the wings cut. Now I'm going to take this tool, roll it over again, use that long wing. I'm pulling with this hand. I have my right hand locked into my body. I have the flute, that'll be at about 9:30. I want a little bit tilted up to make the cut rather than a scrape. Here's the scrape. Now I turned it, now I'm almost 10 o'clock right here. Remember that the closer you are to the center, the slower it goes. Well, you can see right here, you need a donut while you're doing this. There's a good 930 pull. Pull it out, come back here, push into the headstock. The reason I pulled it out the first time out of the chuck was that I was pulling this way and I torqued it and pulled it out on that one. But if I'm pushing toward the headstock, that would never happen. I can come back with this 40 grind again and just start boring down. Come back up a little bit. And again, because we're in the center, we can speed that up a little bit. There you can see the shaving. Here's the scrape, they're coming down. Here's the cut. They're going up over the tool rest. Don't push too hard in the center, you'll get that torque problem again. Now it's starting to get, the baddie, the 40-40 grind is starting to lose its effectiveness as I get down in there as far as going hard. Probably more significantly as the tool's getting dull. That side cuts better than the other side. So we're pretty much turning a normal bowl now. There you can see the nice. Yep. Yep. I had to go back with some super glue there. This light delay is a commercial. Somebody told me once if you wet it, it'll set faster. I must have good spit.
As long as you don't put it on first.
Well, you notice my finger didn't stick to it.
Yeah. You gotta make sure you get in the right sequence.
There's a package material that's kind of opaque in thin sheets that they package thing, not bubble wrap, but a little thinner than that. And super glue will not stick to it. So if you wrap it on your hand, you can put super glue on pens and all the rest of the things pretty easily. Works very well. Now we're there and we can cut down. Again, you can bring this tool rest inside. If you're having a little trouble here, we want to get rid of some of that. I'm going to switch out here. This one is a 1/2 inch D-way, and it's got a 60-degree grind area on the front of it. Now, when I cut down, I didn't put a whole lot of force in those wings. Let's go back and talk a little bit about that. This bowl here is pretty high wings. The lower this wing is here, the more flexible these two wings become. And when you try to cut one and it pushes this one out, and now you come around to this one and it's not been pushed out, you're going to catch this side over here. And so you're trying to cut it. Now if we look at this, there's a ridge right here. I use primary pencils. My wife was a kindergarten teacher, and she showed me how nice those pencils are. They have a softer lead and they mark very well. And you won't just rub it out. It'll be in the wood, so you got to cut it out. But they work very well. They leave a nice line. All right, so here again, we're over on this side, and I start with the bevel rubbing. I'm going to roll toward me till I get an edge. Now I have an edge. I'm not going to go very fast. There my cut's too deep, and I got to move my hand back on the handle. Now, part of that's the tool rest. I'm losing an angle here to cut properly because the tool rest is starting to slide, and I'm almost off of the tool rest on that end. But come back. Bevel, if you're bumping a bump there you can hear the wing. Looking. It's cutting right there very lightly. I have very little pressure on the pushing into the bowl. And I can bring it around that way. Now, I have some more material to take out, but you can see it's cutting cleanly. This is grain here, this mark here, that's not me. That's the grain cutting on it. And this is getting where it's almost down. You see the pencil line? They haven't quite caught on that side. There's a little bit of it right there. I'll find my bevel, ABC. Cut. Okay, that is all pretty equal right there. This line right here, this is pear. It oxidizes so quickly it's turning yellow, even if I just got done cutting it. This is just cut. This is only 2 minutes old maybe on that. But my thickness here is pretty good. This is a great tool for measuring thickness in a bowl. And we're at about 5/16, and we're going up to 3/8 right there, so we're looking pretty good. But I need to change the tool rest. Now, this one's a little short, and I'm afraid of hitting the wing. This will allow me to reach in a little bit better. On a really deep bowl, you could use a curved tool rest. But notice I'm going right across the other side now. Now, when I start, it's going to be thicker here. But as I take some of this out, it's much easier for me here now. Always check, make sure you cleared the wings. You won't be happy if you pull the trigger and they're still there. I'm a little bit high. Just adjust. Make sure you've got a comfortable finish on it. This handle's a little bit short. It's quite a bit short. We're going to use the 5/8 inch. 5/8 inch D-way with a good 60-65 degrees on the nose. Much more stable. Now I'm moving quickly from my right leg over to my left leg. I can't waste too much time because this bowl's going in pretty quick. A quick look, and we're 7/16 down in here now. So we got that 3/8 can come out some. Again, hand on the top of the tool rest. Scrape. Take it out. You get a relatively flat. So a better look at it. Whoop. That thing is so bright. All right, we're going to switch over to a bottom feeder. That could be a bottom feeder, but this is a one with the wings on it. And I'm going to cut on the left-hand side of this. Some will cut with it rolled over, but I prefer to see the flute. And this is pretty steep. This is a good, probably 70 degrees on this thing right now. And I'm just going to roll back toward me. The flute's coming up. The flute's coming up. The bevel is coming down, basically, I guess, until I catch it right there. Come right here and bring it around. You've got to move your hips. I always try to leave a dimple in the bottom of the bowl. That way it's easy to sand it off. If you pull out the grain, you're going to have all kinds of sanding to do. Go slow. Don't go too fast down there. Yeah. We're a little bit thick. Probably right on one side more than the other. Yeah. We're 3/8 down here near the base. It's almost a ½ an inch down in here. Alright. What I would normally do now is, if I'm satisfied with the inside, and I think I might cut one more on this thing. We come back a little more. See if we can pick this up. Not too fast. Tool rest is too low. You hear that bumping? It's the bowl coming around and bumping on the bottom of my bevel right there. So I needed to raise the tool rest. I want to cut on that center line, and it was getting pushed away all the time. Because the bevel is so steep, it doesn't take too much. I'm cutting on the left-hand side here. Some people call it the suicide side. Now I'm over on the right-hand side. Did you see me switch? I went from the left-hand, the left-hand side over to the right-hand side with the curve of the bowl. I didn't have to do anything other than just keep it cutting. And now we got a little wood to take out of the bottom. I'll bring my tool rest back over. Check. And we could finish out with either one of these. We'll go back on this one. Hopefully that wasn't the side of the bowl. Shouldn't be. Don't see any light. Yeah, that's pretty good. A little bit high. I gotta bring it down to finish the cut. Check it. That. Now, I would normally take this bowl, flip it around, and turn the bottom off it right now. You could put this, we could do it like this and dry it. If you're going to dry it slowly, you put it in a paper bag, leave it in there for a week, 10 days, and you'll feel it starting to dry out more, the surface will feel better. Then take it out and just set it in the basement somewhere where there's no wind, there's no sun, and let it dry. If you're in a hurry, and to do that, I would turn it a little bit thinner than this, but this probably would work it. Put it in a microwave. Set your don't use your wife's microwave, buy her a new one. That's what I did. And set the power at 50% and set it for about 30 seconds. Depending on how wet this wood is and what wood it is, that's all variable. So you got to take it easy. You don't want it to crack. So better to be cautious on the good side than have it split on you. But do so many cycles with that. What you're going to do is run it 50%, 30 seconds, leave the door shut. Let it rest with the door shut. And after a minute, 2 minutes, depending on what part of the cycles you're in, open the door, leave the door open. Do not take it right out and go, whoo, ah, whoo. It'll be hot. It will be hot eventually, but maybe not on 30 seconds. If it's still cool when you pick it up, then okay, boost your heat up a little bit, or your power. And you want it to get warm, but not where you can't handle it very well, at least till the end. Okay, so the next one you might go 45 seconds. You're going to get to a minute. You're going to have your power at 75. Eventually you're going to get up to 2 minutes. 2 minutes with full power, you'll get it pretty warm. And leave the door shut. Let it settle. What it's doing is reabsorbing some of the humidity inside the microwave. Then you open the door up after a couple minutes and the humidity starts to escape and the bowl is going to start cooling down in a slower environment. You don't want to pull it out. So then if you get to the point where the things. Let's take a look at this bowl. What do you notice on it? Where's the grain?
Right down the side.
All right, this is the long grain right here, and it's beautiful oval right in the bottom. If you look at the bark, this one and this one, very difficult to know which one's higher than the other. So all those things worked out pretty well because you selected a good piece of wood to start with, not a piece of limb wood or not a radical grain type of wood. I've turned bowls like this. I've turned crotches where you have a limb sticking up and a limb sticking up and the trunk sticking down, and you still do the same thing. You turn it thin enough, and then you can sand it out within a short period of time. But it's a fun thing to do if you want to sell bowls. You know how fast these things can go. These are sellable because if you do them correctly and they feel light, like that walnut one, I would price that walnut bowl probably about $150, and that's on this side of town. If you go up north, you might find it more like 200 on that. But that would be in the price range for a bowl that thickness, with all the bark still on it and everything else. Anyway, we'll pass that around on that one.
Now, the question I have is on this tenon. At what point would you remove this if you're doing that microwave thing, or?
I'm gonna remove it right away. Oh, now let me tell you a little bit about that. I will turn the foot on the bottom and remove some of this 1/2 inch I was talking about down here. I'm going to take that down. I'm going to try to get it uniform from here all the way down. Underneath, I'm going to recess that a little deeper than I would normally. So I want to leave enough wood down here that we'll see if I can do it. How much we have in the bottom right now. Okay, I'm at 7/8, almost 13/16 of an inch. I have quite a bit down there. So I could remove probably the tenon and still have a good 1/2 inch, 9/16. And then I could probably cut it down a little bit more and then I'm gonna make a little deeper cut. And the reason I wanna do that is this bowl is gonna warp. And if I put it on a table, it's gonna wobble. So by cutting the recess in there a little bit deeper, I've made the thickness better, and I can take the bowl on a piece of sandpaper and rub the bowl flat on the bottom that it won't rock anymore. So that's the only adjustment this bowl has. It'll warp, but you won't know it. That's what's nice about these. If it goes oval, people like it even more. If you don't change the feel of the bowl, it's always there. And compared to a round bowl, somebody might say, oh, it's oval. This one it'll turn oval, but it won't. But that's what you're after. You want that kind of look to the bowl most of the time. All right, that's it. I'm done, I think. Any questions?
How are you gonna mount that next to take the tenon off?
To take the tenon off, I'm sorry, we're gonna use a vacuum chuck. This right here is the vacuum with the hose we have. If you did not, you could jam chuck it, where you would put it on your chuck, you'd make a mandrel, a piece of wood with a piece of foam on it, and push it between centers, and then turn off the bottom. And when you get down to the last little bark, don't cut it all the way off, or the bowl's gonna go flying. Cut off enough that you can then just sand the rest of it out. And if you're using power sanding, it's a 5-minute job. Cuts it out pretty quickly. So, yeah, good question. You don't have that kind of equipment. Just come here. We got all that stuff. And always willing to use it on that. But what I'm showing here, this one here, this is homemade. You can buy these for about $75. 2 O-rings on a piece of maple with a air chuck on it with a bearing in it. And that just goes in the headstock, slides in the headstock, push it in. This hooks up to the vacuum chuck. And then you have a vacuum chuck. This one's a little beat up. Somebody lost the gasket. This is a piece of foam, closed foam, and the bowl will just go right again. Put it like that, and the vacuum will suck it to it, and I'll turn this off. So it's gone there. Like that. And then this is turned down enough that I could sand this flat with sandpaper, and then just clean this one up as it's on the vacuum. Okay?